Welcome back to Change Your Perspective, Change Your Awareness, Change Your Life. I'm Dr. Michelina AF, hashtag that felon doctor, and we are here talking about mentalities that are strongholds in your mind that are not serving you, that you are going to want to see if you have, and if you do, work to get rid of. So we're talking today about the third mentality that is kind of a self mentality, and that is a perfection mentality. You hear a lot about the perfection mentality nowadays because so many of us were raised in this generation where we wanted everything to be perfect. And so if you are somebody who struggles with perfection mentality, you probably, and this is a weird thing, you probably have a hard time admitting you're wrong because you're perfect, right? So you can't be wrong. Your way has to make sense. It has to be the right way. There has to be a way that this is the right thing at the right time. And, your girl has struggled with all of these. So I've witnessed them in myself, and I witness them now having gone through them. And it's a really funny thing. So there are times where I'll be talking to someone. I'm like, okay, so just so you know, this thing happened in this way. And they're evasive about it, right? It's like, hey, did you do this thing? And instead of being like, oh no, I didn't do it, they're like, well, there were so many other things that had to get done. Like this had to get done, and like this had to get done, and like also that had to get done. And it's like the root of that is a perfection mentality because of just saying, instead of saying, no, I didn't do the thing, what you're doing is I had to prioritize other things because I know best and my way is best, right? If you have a perfection mentality, you hold yourself to a standard that is very high and impossible. You are setting yourself up to fail. You cannot possibly attain the standard that you set yourself up for because perfection is not real. It does not exist, right? And so what we need to implement instead is an excellence standard. Instead of perfection, I've shown up and I've been excellent to the best of my ability. Right? We have a hard time kind of differentiating what is a perfection standard and an excellence standard. So perfectionism looks like this. It has to be exactly right. Excellence sounds like I have to get this done and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability and I'm going to be okay with whatever it is. Knowing that it could always be fixed, it could be edited, it could be changed. There is no such thing when we look around. Even a thing that looks like its most polished form is still not perfect. It will never be perfect. And in order for that thing, let's say a movie, a book, a person, an outfit, anything, in order for it to get to its most unpolished form, you had to go through a great many edits. We don't apply that logic to ourselves, literally ever. And so what we do is we expect ourselves to show up and get it right the first time. It's like, you ain't gonna. I know this because I used to do this, right? Where I would expect myself to show up in the space and understand the thing exactly. And then I was mad at myself when I couldn't figure it out. And it's like, hold the phone. You're new here. You don't know what's going on. Why do you think that you would ever be perfect at this on day one? You ain't gonna be. Right? And so that is a thing that we do a lot with perfection mentality. Perfection mentality sets everybody up around you to fail as well. Because a lot of what happens, a lot of the time, I've also done this too, is if you have a perfection mentality for yourself, the people who are in close partnership with you also fall victim to that mindset. So everything has to be executed in this way, on this time, in this timeline, to this ability, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so we get a lot of people who are never in gratitude because you're not just grateful somebody took out the trash. You're like, yeah, you didn't do it at the right time, in the right way, with the right thing, and then you didn't do this and you didn't do that. And it's like, okay, no wonder nobody wants to do anything for you. Because you function out of a perfection mentality. Perfection mentality has people walking on eggshells. Because it's like, I know no matter what I do, it's never going to be good enough, so why am I even going to do anything? And the answer is, I'm not. Because I don't want to. Because why would I? And you can't blame people for feeling like that. How else would they feel when perfection mentality shows up? Perfection mentality is very debilitating, and people don't even realize they're functioning out of it. They don't even realize that that's something that they're working through on the daily. So why do we develop perfection mentality? There's a lot of reasons for it, but I have found it tends to be a worth issue, in that, like, in a never enough issue, right? Worth issues always come from not being enough for somebody. So if you have a parent who demanded more, or like what you did was never enough, if you had a boyfriend who was like, it was never enough, you develop this perfectionistic complex. And by you, I mean me too, developed this perfectionistic complex where it's like, I'm doing everything perfectly and I'm worthy of this X, Y, and Z thing. It's like, I'm never going to not be perfect. I'm never going to not look like I don't have my stuff together. You're not going to get one over on me, kind of a thing. And I will say that for me to break this, it took the absolute loss of my reputation, which you would think I've actually lost my reputation like 80 times in my life. But it took the like global loss of the reputation for me to be like, yeah, I'm done with this. So yeah, that's what it took for me to like lay that down, where I was like, all right, so everybody thinks I'm a villain. So what do I have to prove to anybody? Like, clearly I'm not perfect. And it actually gave me a huge license to just be myself. Of course, I also had other things to battle with there, because I was like, well, if everybody thinks I'm a villain, maybe I should be. No. So that was, don't want to go too far the other way. With perfection mentality, it is having an expectation and a standard on yourself that is impossible to uphold, but it's impossible to sustain. And I'll give you this. When I was teaching, I had this complex where I was always going to be on point. Like, I'm going to be perfect, right? I'm going to look a certain way. I'm going to do this like this and the other thing. I'm going to have everything. I'm always going to wear heels. I'm always going to do this. I'm always going to have this. I'm always going to do this. And I actually, for the most part, did for 6 years. And when I was leaving, like 5 or 6 years in, I was like, I can't sustain this demeanor. Like, this reputation I've set up for myself, I cannot sustain. Because, like, I'm not this thing. Not always. And so at some point, you'll get to a place, probably, when you've been putting on that performance of perfection, that you're like, shit, I can't sustain this. What do I do now? If you show up as real, if you show up as, hey, I'm not perfect, dude. Like, of course I'm not perfect. It gets so much easier to just be. And I brought this up before. I'll bring it up here again. People who are like, hey, Michelina, did you do this thing? And I'm like, oh, crap. No, I completely forgot. Like, I am so sorry. Let me get on that. They're so impressed and refreshed. They shouldn't be. It should be pretty standard practice. Like, oops, forgot that. My bad. Messed up. When you are out of perfection mentality, you give yourself the grace to make mistakes and to be human and to be flawed. Because you are flawed. You're never not flawed. You're human. Of course you're flawed. Now, if you haven't done the necessary practices to know your flaws, you're going to be very hard pressed to feel comfortable pointing them out or having them pointed out to you. Like, at this point, it's so easy for me because nobody can tell me my flaws better than me. I'm like, yo, you ain't never lied. Someone was like, you're really kind of arrogant. I'm like, oh, I know it. God, do I know it. I work on that every day and I'm still awful at it. You know what I mean? And it just makes you so human. It makes you so relatable when you get out of perfection mentality. And so this one is one I would say so many people struggle with and they have no idea. So I hope that this is helpful because we're trying to ferret out these things that you may not be aware that you're doing, right? Changing your perspective. And if you want to do the work to start getting into awareness and getting into your life changing, I've got courses for you at acornsandoaks.vhx.tv. And the university will be open up soon, so that's really exciting. So we'll stay tuned on that. And we'll have plenty of mind, body, spirit things coming up very, very soon. I hope you have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And if you like what we're doing here, like, subscribe, feed the channel. Tell your friends, hit the bell, and then I'll see you guys on the next video.